Welcome to Audacity Works, a podcast inspired by and dedicated to the working artist, the creative entrepreneur, and generally, doing the damn thing. This exists on the premise that the world belongs to those who have the audacity to believe that their lives have value. This is for you. Welcome to Audacity Works. I am your host, Rachel Strickland, and this is episode number 135. And it is about relationships. It is in response to a question that I got from Bethaney. Thank you, Bethaney, for writing in, who asks, how did you meet your husband? And do you feel that your relationship has affected your art? In what ways do you feel a spouse or partner can influence our ability to create? And does a difficult partnership affect us creatively? Let's talk about it. So this is kind of a two-parter. It's kind of part two of an episode that I recorded and released 2 years ago, nearly to the day. That was episode 29, and it was called Relationships and the Performing Arts. So that answered questions that I had been asked, like, what if your partner doesn't like that you travel so much? What if they have issue with what you wear on stage? What about other relationships and their feelings towards your career? And what do we do when we feel guilty for prioritizing our careers? Those are the questions that I address in episode 29. So if that sounds more relevant to you, full disclosure, it is a very spicy episode. It's basically me saying, fuck that noise, in 5 different ways, but there's also some actionable advice in there. I'll put a link to that in the show notes, so if you feel like that's more to the point of something that might be relevant for you right now, go forth and listen to me be snatchy without apology. I'm going to take these questions from Bethaney one at a time. Question number 1, how did you meet your husband? I met Manflesh in a rave in a cave. We were both 18 years old, and the rave was in Indian Cave State Park in Tennessee in November the 18th to be exact. It was my freshman year of college, and I had very little interest in very late night parties and loud music, but all my friends were very interested in it. So I wore it like a suit and basically pretended to be a candy raver, or, I tried it on like a suit. Like, this doesn't really fit, but it was a fun year, as most first years of college are, I hope. But when I met Manflesh, I had like candy up to my elbows. I had a pacifier necklace on. He was wearing short sleeves in a cave in Tennessee in November. Also, fun fact, he was still in high school. He had turned 18 3 days before I met him. We were both on E. We met in a cuddle puddle. We made out. I'm really giving you like the abridged version of the story. And at the end of the night, he memorized my email address, and then we went our separate ways. I must have checked my email 50 times a day, waiting to see if he was going to write to me for like a week. And the truth is that he had written me this really, really long, gorgeous email, but couldn't quite remember my email address. So he just kept trying different variants of what I had told him until he got it right. He got it right. And then we were friends for 7 years. He was in the Navy, or entered the Navy. I was mad at him for that. He got married. I was mad at him for that too. Not because he got married. I knew he didn't want to get married, so that's what I was mad about. I was in and out of long-term relationships, and then I said, fuck it, and went and traveled. And when I got home from that is when we became us. And we fell in love over the phone. This is a very abridged version of the story, one that I'll expound on later. I have a request that I've been working on from my friend Chris. Hi, Chris, who really wants me to interview Manflesh, and I really want to, and he's interested, but he hasn't agreed yet. But he may very well agree, and when he does, I will do that. But then we'll go into like more detail, because it really is a good story. But the point in me telling you even this abridged version is that we were set up for longevity from the beginning. I am a serial monogamist who falls in love with her friends. That's pretty much how every relationship I've had has started. And when it happened with Manflesh, I had met my match. And the beautiful thing about falling in love with your friends is that you're already friends. You already know so much about each other. You have heard a lot of unpleasant things about their lives, and the pleasant things, it's not all glossed over to try and make yourself come out in the best possible light. Like, if you've been friends, you know some shit about each other. And because we had been friends for 7 years, we really were set up for a good beginning. And then, here's a kicker, we were long distance for the first 2 years of our relationship. A committed, monogamous relationship, I will add, because that's just how we roll. Neither one of us were particularly looking to fall in love with each other. We're like, damn, this is inconvenient. I lived in Louisiana at the time. He lived in the Seattle area, was still in the Navy. We're like, well, what the fuck are we going to do about this? Because my plans were, I'm going to move to San Francisco and learn how to dance on the curtains, which I did. I wasn't going to change my plan. We're like, well, we're in it now, and it's too good to say no to. We're not going to say no to this just because it's inconvenient. And when it's your person, you just figure it out. I'm going to say that again. When it's your person, you figure it out. It's massively inconvenient to be in love with someone very far away from you and who it doesn't fit into your life or the life that you're pursuing, your ambitions, your passions, for them to be part of your daily life in person. Very inconvenient. Also, not impossible. So it's always been confusing to me when people are like, well, I tried to make long distance work, but it was just too hard. It was never too hard. It was never too hard. It was the only option. We did what we had to do. So maybe it wasn't too hard for the people that said that. It didn't fit. It wasn't the right fit. Not that there is one right fit. I don't think that there's one sole person for you in the world, but you do find your people. And I mean that in friendships as well as romantic partnerships. And when you find your people, you're like, you my people. And he was my people. And is. I just talked to him 5 minutes ago. So on to Bethaney's next question. Do you feel that your relationship has affected your art? Absolutely. And a couple of ways. In the beginning, when we were living in separate places for such a long time, that was really good for me because I was really figuring it out. The hours of my day-to-day life were wildly inconsistent. I was very low income. I was trying out all these different ways of working, like being part of fusion troops and being freelance and dabbling into this or that. And I needed time to figure out what was a good fit for me. Those first 2 years were very prolific. But I felt loved. I was loved, even from afar. And another benefit, being in a relationship has been very beneficial for me and for my art and for my career. And so I'm just telling you all the ways that I can think of in 20 short minutes about how that rolled out. But also because of how we were formed and how we were so primed for longevity and that we were long distance for the first 2 years, the honeymoon phase lasted a very long time. And I don't know if you know this, but being in love is very conducive to creation. Inspiration was at a high and at a sustained pace that really fed me creatively. And another benefit to being in a relationship, my entire performing career, besides college, I've been in a relationship with Manflesh. And that meant that no one pursued me romantically. Sometimes they would pursue me physically and then realize, oh, I'm not of that flavor of San Francisco. And they're like, oh, okay, my bad. And then they'd back off. That was very helpful in retrospect, because I didn't have to deal with the bullshit that comes with being in tumultuous love affairs with other people in the cast of the show that you're in. It also didn't hurt that Manflesh is so not a performing artist. He's intensely creative, but like very different career paths and skills. So my performing career was mine, and he loved being part of it. Now, if we fast forward, I moved up to Seattle to work and cut my teeth and to be closer to him. And eventually we did move in together up there, and then we moved back to San Francisco. And both times in Seattle and in San Francisco, if someone knew me, they knew him. And I have such clear memories of Scott Cameron from then Trapeze World, now Intrepid Rigging and Performance, would contact me for a gig. And in the group email, he'd be like, Khaleesi, because he called me Khaleesi, we'll be doing this at this time, and Jon Snow will be there as tech support, artist support. So he ended up like getting written into gigs, and he loved it. He was always game for it, and always such a good support and help. He's really good at problem solving. And at this point, I feel like I'm just sort of gushing about how awesome Manflesh is, which I'm happy to do. It's not super helpful to all of you, but I want to acknowledge that there are so many different ways to be in relationship with someone. And yeah, I'm going to share my experience of my relationship and how that's affected my work. And it may be very different from how you've experienced your own relationship. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with yours or mine. But we find a way to make it work for us, for the relationship, for the artist. I've had friends whose partners were so disinterested in their work and in coming, like they would never come to a show. They were never there. And that was always really weird to me, because of course Manflesh is like there in the dressing room, like handing out coffees. So yeah, of course I thought it was odd. But that doesn't mean it was bad. Although if you ask those friends, they would tell you, yeah, they would have really liked to feel supported by their partner. But your person does not have to come to every show. They don't have to come to every rehearsal. They don't have to be there constantly to be a sense of support. The real question is, do you feel supported? The real question is, do you have what you need to create? And that's not the responsibility of your partner to give you what you need to create, but it is the responsibility in a partnership to ask for what you need and to meet each other inside of that ask according to what is possible for the other person. And that's going to be different per human being, because I can tell you right now, I would have made a terrible circus boyfriend, right? Manflesh made a great circus boyfriend. He makes a great circus artist husband. He likes doing different things. He likes going different places, and he likes problem solving in creative ways, and he's very good at it. But me, I like doing my things. So interpersonally, our gifts and talents and interests just meshed well together. Like we supported each other in that way. So I'm going to talk about safety now, because I'm not exactly sure, and I didn't ask Bethaney for clarification on what they meant exactly about how my partnership has affected my art. It doesn't inform my art. I don't generally make art about being married. I have made art about our relationship, and even included him in a piece once, which he did very graciously. And he's like, I don't really need to be on stage with you. And I'm like, okay, noted. Like, I won't ask you to do that again. But I don't necessarily feel driven to make art about marriage or my relationship, but I'm able to make art about all the things I do make art about because I'm in a safe and supported place to do that. This idea that pervades our culture, in which artists work best when they're in an angst-driven survival state, is bullshit. Yeah, you can make art about that time you were in danger, and you can make art about that angsty ass area of your life, and you should go do that. But you're probably going to make better work when you're in a safe place to do so. Making work about unsafe circumstances or whatever circumstances, but we don't work best when we're in an angst-fueled survival state. We work best, I work best, when I feel safe. When I'm at my most creative and most prolific, my life looks boring as shit from the outside. I eat the same thing every morning, I eat at the same time, have the same routine. Not because I think like the morning routine is that big of a deal, just because it works for me. I go into the studio and I hash it out, and then I come home and I cook a nutritious yet savory meal. And then we watch Netflix, right? Boring, but awesome. I have a great capacity for angst, but I need to put it where it's appropriate, which is on the page or on the stage. Not in my life, right? Not in my daily life. I don't want an angsty daily life. I want a peaceful and somewhat boring daily life so that I can make work. That's where my angst belongs, in the work. That's where my drama belongs, in the work. So I think my question to all of you, and my invitation for all of you, is to ask yourself, do you feel supported by your partner or partners? And what would make you feel supported by your partner or partners, or theoretical partners, so that you could live your best life, which includes making your work, if you choose to include that. And I want to address Bethaney's last question. Does a difficult partnership affect us creatively? Yes, it does. With the slight caveat that all partnerships have difficulty, all of them. But when I hear my friend ask about a difficult partnership, I am not viewing that through the lens of all partnerships are difficult at one time or another, on and off forever, because that is true, but I don't think that's what she meant. And I don't necessarily think she meant only for me to be talking about like abusive relationships, which of course are going to affect you creatively and not in a good way. But there's so much nuance between those two extremes of a quote-unquote normal relationship, which there is not really such a thing, and a toxic or abusive relationship. But in the miles between those two, consider even like one of the more tame varieties. If you feel cut down by your partner and that they don't respect what you're doing, or they think it's silly or frivolous, then that means you will need to be self-validating. And of course, we all need the skill of self-validation. Very useful skill that I encourage all of us to pursue. But if you're constantly getting negative feedback about the very thing that you're trying to overcome, that's a tremendous amount of energy that is being spent just trying to feel okay doing the thing in the first place, much less actually doing the thing well. And if you're wondering, hey, I bet some people use their relationship as a way to interrupt their ability to make their work and be true to themselves. Abso-fucking-lutely they do. Human beings will go to extraordinary lengths to avoid fulfillment. Because fulfillment is scary, and like going after your ambitions is scary, and it is dangerous, which is why it works better if you feel safe. Like you're already doing this scary thing. You're already taking such huge, brave risks. it shouldn't be a huge, brave risk to go home. Just needed a second of silence after that, because just saying that made me feel really sad, because there are so many people who do not feel safe to go home. And this took a sudden and intense turn. But if this is you and you are afraid to go home, or you love someone, you're close with someone who's in a bad situation, I've got some resources for that, and I'll put those in the show notes. But I'm looking at the time, my friends. All things in the show notes, always. Also, Woo Corner is coming out real soon for June, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. I want to thank Bethaney for her questions, and all of you for listening to me answer them for 21 plus minutes in your ear. Thank you for having me on the inside of your skull. It is truly my honor to be here and to take up this little bit of space, so thank you for inviting me. If you have requests for future episodes, I would love to hear them. You can reach me always on Instagram at Rachel Strickland Creative, or on Patreon at Rachel Strickland Creative. This podcast is powered by Patreon, so I got to give a shout out to my amazing patrons who make my life so much better and my work so much more possible. With their support, thank you so much for believing in me and for standing with me and standing next to me. It means everything. If this episode was helpful to you, the best compliments you could pay me would be to send it to someone that you thought it could help, or to support me on Patreon if you are able. Until next time, my friends, I hope that you have the support and the safety that you need to make your silly, angsty, dramatic, weird work. And I wish you a generous muse. Don't go back to sleep.